Good morning, everyone, and welcome to this masterclass on elevating your executive presence. Now, if you were here last week and because of our technical glitch, you could not enjoy the whole presentation the way it was meant to be, my apologies. But thank you for taking time out and joining me on a weekend and giving your time once again to be here. So, welcome back. And if you are someone who's coming for the first time, well, once again, thank you very much for joining and that you are in for uh, a great session because I believe this is something that can be really useful. And probably you already know that at this stage. And that's the reason you have prioritized it and you have joined us today for this session. So, in any case, uh, I'm going to make your investment of time worthwhile today. And I can promise you that you are going to go away with some keen insights, great implementable insights, and tools that you can immediately work on. And at the same time, you will have clarity in terms of what executive presence is and what it is not. So, with that, let's just start our session here. The focus of our session is threefold. So we are going to look at three things. One is what exactly is executive presence, and the next one is uh, why is it important for us, and the third one is what are some of the ways that you can start to implement it in your workplace. Okay, so one thing that I have noticed is that people have very vague ideas of exactly what executive presence can be. And that is where the biggest challenge comes in. And I'm sure if some of you have got that feedback at your office that you need to relook at your role, be more strategic in the way that you see your role, or that you need to have a whole company perspective, or that you must communicate in a more concise and impactful manner, uh, then you can be rest assured that they are talking about executive presence. But unfortunately, what happens is that any advice that you get, uh, even well intentioned, it does not necessarily help you because there are no implementable action items that somebody suggests you how you can start doing that. So we know it's important, but at the same time, we do not have anything that we can work with. And that is what is the challenge here. So let me share with you what exactly can you take away from here. So we are going to look at three critical dimensions of executive presence that you can actually start to focus on or work on. So you will know what are the pieces, what are the components that go into making great executive presence. The second thing that you're going to learn is to take implementable tools and techniques. Now, executive presence is something that you will have to set it as a long term goal. You will have to work towards it, and that's how it will develop. At the same time, there are certain things that you can start to do in your workplace and in your behaviors immediately that can start to give you quick wins. And those are the four implementable tools that I'm going to share with you. So you will also have a framework based on these two pieces. You will get a framework that will help you to command any room anywhere, right? Now, the last thing is it's not so much about knowing, but it's about doing, it's about implementing. And most of the times, we fail in changing the behaviors or doing what we want to do, not because of wrong intentions or no intentions, but the fact that we are not disciplined in implementing it. So I'm going to share a way that you can implement it also. And if this is something of a priority for you, if it is something which is really important, then I have got a proposal for you. I'm going to share that towards the end of the session. And if you feel that this is something which is worth your while, then you may then you may want to consider joining that. Now, having said that, it doesn't mean that I'm putting a gun to your head that you have to stick around until the end of the session. And I know that if it is useful, you will stick around. But in any case, if you feel that this is that you have to drop off at some point, you're most welcome to carry on. This recording will be available for the next couple of days for you to revisit and continue to pick it up from wherever that you left off. All right. So with that, let's move to the next part, and that is uh, a little bit about myself. They say that when you want to teach maths to Ramu, not only should you know maths, but you should also know Ramu. So I would want to introduce your Ramu to you. And this is me. I'm an executive coach, and I've been doing that for last 20 or 25 odd years. And the way I work and what I do is I work with successful IT leaders who have hit a road bump in their career. They have hit a snag. And what I do is to help them make sense of their changing situation. I help them prioritize what they need to be doing and help them implement it so that they can lead with a little bit more ease and they can continue to put in the good work that they have been doing that already. Now, I have addressed almost 20,000 professionals in the last 20 odd years. I've had more than 1,000+ hours of coaching, and I've had the honor and pleasure of leading about 30 plus uh, senior leaders into executive presence. A couple of things about how I got into this is that there is a little trivia that I did not start off as an executive coach in my career. I started off as a hospitality professional. I was in hospitality for almost a decade, and I was a chef. But I think at some point I realized that was not my calling, and I felt that I had missed my calling while studying, and that's the reason I'm into hospitality. But I wanted to make that to correct what I had not done earlier. So I thought that I'm going to compensate that by reading up everything that needs to be learned to be a good leader in the corporate environment or in the workplace. And the only challenge was I couldn't find time to do that. So the thought was that how can I find something that would allow me to read and share it with others? And that's how I came across to be here. So initially, when I started off, I was reading a lot of books, learning a lot of things, but I did not have any audience. So I would catch hold of my cooks and chefs in the kitchen, and they were my captive audience. So I would share my learnings with them. And at some point, one of them said that, "Sir, you are cooking better stories in the training room than the food in the kitchen." And I knew that that was a sign that I must move out from there. So I did move out from there in about 2003. And for about 7, 8 years, I learned the ropes. I started learning, and I was doing well in this. But the turning point came to me in 2011 when I was coaching a very senior lady. And what happened was that I had already worked with her in another capacity. But at the same time, she had a proposal for her stakeholders. She was a CTO, I think. So she was a senior vice president at that moment, and she wanted to get one proposal approved for a 3.5 million US dollars infrastructure upgrade in her department. She knew it was critical for the organization. She had a strong business case on her presentation. But when she went in, she could not get people to buy into her proposal, and she failed there. And what feedback that she got from her superiors was that you lacked, uh, you know, in communication, in executive communication, you were not impactful enough and you were not persuasive enough. So that's how she came to me and started talking to me about it. And at that time, I did not know much about executive presence or executive communication. I knew a little bit pieces here and there, but I did not have a, kind of a coherent picture of exactly how to approach this topic. So I started working with her, and long story short, after about 8 months, she went back to the same stakeholders and she was able to present it in a much better way. And she finally was able to get the approval for her investment. She also got promoted. Then, when we sat down to review the progress that we had made, what we were doing, uh, and this is one thing that I do with my leaders, that once we have gone through an intervention, I always ask them, what exactly did you take away from here? What exactly did you learn from here? And what she said, that captured the essence of what I've been doing since. And what she said was that last time I prepared the presentation, but I did not prepare for the conversation. Now, this is the essence of what executive presence is all about. We all, as senior leaders, face very similar challenges. And many a times, leaders have come to me and they have said that I don't know if my communication is wrong. Maybe I should start to improve my vocabulary, or the way that I talk must change. I really don't know what's happening, but I think I'm failing and I need some help. And this is where I had started to dig a little deeper. What is there beyond good communication skills or presentation skills that is different when it comes to executive communication? So I started to do a lot of, I had done a lot of reading and researching while helping this lady Preeti in her quest. And I found out that there is bits and pieces of information, but there is no specific framework to help leaders. So over a period of last 15 years, I have worked on it, and I have very successfully applied it for in many occasions. And this is what I'm bringing it to you. You are the beneficiary for that. So I'm quite confident that it is quite relevant for this geography and the profile of leaders in IT industry in India. It is not a cut paste from anywhere else. It is something that has organically evolved over a period of time. All right. So with that as a context, let me start by uh, sharing with you what exactly is why exactly do we need executive presence? And the reason for that is because every leader reaches a point in their career where the way success is defined, that changes dramatically. Now, in those moments, all your expertise and experience put together, what differentiates you from your peers and other people is your executive presence, your ability to uh, connect with your stakeholders and create impact to the bottom line of the organization. And this is the reason why it is so important. Because here is some research data, let me just share that with you, is that based on a survey from one of the consulting organizations, that 83% of the leaders globally believe that executive presence is more important than technical skills in career success and career advancement. Okay, so that's at a personal level. I can tell you this is extremely important. And having said that, this is also true that 2/3 of the IT leaders, they hit a glass ceiling. They see their careers stalling at a certain leadership level, and that is simply because of communication gaps. Now, those communication gaps, they are a larger part of the executive presence. So this is one of the things that you do not get prepared for during your functional career advancement. your functional role does not help you to prepare for this transition, because this is something which is not an incremental change. It's a dramatic shift in the way that you look at it. It's a complete operating system change, if you may want to call it. And that cannot be addressed on their own, and it requires a lot of support to the leaders when they're transitioning into this way. Now, what happens is that because you do not get enough support, and as I mentioned earlier, that we do not have enough information available about how to help leaders with executive presence, in this bargain, we start to believe and develop certain misconceptions about what it is and what it is not. Okay, I think I'm looking for my slide. Okay, I don't know which. Let me see if I can share the other one here. Maybe I made a mistake while doing it. No? Okay, all right. So what happens is that when we do not have the right direction in how to improve upon our executive presence, there are 2 3 things happens. One is people start to believe that uh, it's something which is inborn. Either you have it or you don't have it. None of the training or coaching can help you with this. Second thing, misconception again that comes is that, what, I know somebody in my organization who has got executive presence, and if I were to copy them, then I will get it. And the third one is that I have done something right so far. I've been successful in my career. So let me continue to do that, and I'm sure I will do very well. Now, unfortunately, what happens is that in either of these 3 areas, these are, like I said, these are misconceptions. So let's take the first one. There is enough data which is available to prove that executive presence is a set of behaviors that can be learned. It is not something of an inborn trait for anyone, right? So that kind of is a wrong myth, that you cannot, and that it is charisma. No, all those leaders who have done it, they have built it up as a skill, they have built it up as a behavior, and that's how they have been able to demonstrate executive presence. The second part is that, okay, let me copy it from somebody and let's see if I can get it. Well, unfortunately, it is almost like saying, somebody coming to me and saying, Rajiv, I have a problem with my eyes. I can't see clearly. So Rajiv says, oh, is that so? Then why don't you take my glasses? Here, take my glasses. I'm sure they have helped me. I'm sure they will help you too. Now, there are no cookie cutter solutions at this level when it comes to executive presence is concerned. Each one of us has got a very unique and different path to executive presence. So that is again a myth that can be, busted. The third is about that whatever that I have been doing in the past that has helped me to become successful, let me continue to do that. Now, here I like to give the analogy of this violinist who's playing in an orchestra. He plays good violin, and because he's a good violinist, he gets promoted to become a orchestra conductor, right? So one day when the orchestra conductor is not there, he is given the responsibility of leading the orchestra. But when he is leading the orchestra, he realizes the person who has replaced him to play the violin, he's not doing such a good job. And what he does is he leaves his all-important position as the orchestra conductor, and he walks into the orchestra to help that person playing the violin, help him to become, kind of play it better. Now, what is happening here is that, whatever that has helped you to become a great violinist, that skill itself is coming in the way of you becoming a better orchestra conductor. So this is so true in organizational context also, that some of those skills that have helped you to become successful so far, the same skills will come in the way of you becoming better at your next level role. So what got you here? Marshall Goldsmith talks about it, and he says that what got you here won't take you there. Now, when I was trying to talk about it, I was actually thinking of showing you a slide. I think I misplaced that slide. Yeah, so this is the one that was there. So you can have a look at this. Okay, so these were the three misguided responses that we get. So what is the point that I'm trying to make here is that because we don't get the right advice, we tend to make these assumptions and we set ourselves up for failure if we were to believe any of these myths are concerned. All right. So if this is not true, if we can learn to be better at executive presence, then let us see what exactly can we do to become better at it. So let's start by first defining uh, exactly what executive presence is. So the definition of executive presence is to consistently communicate your value proposition to your stakeholders with confidence and conviction while connecting with them in a deep, meaningful way. Now, it's a mouthful, it's a big definition, but what it is trying to say is that you should be able to stand up for yourself and be able to connect with your stakeholders also in a meaningful way. Now, it is going to start making sense a little bit later. So, for us to understand it at a deeper level, let's have a look at some examples, right? So, what does this executive presence looks like? So, let's have a look at if we were to take certain examples of people who have got executive presence, maybe we will know exactly what they are doing, and then it'll be easier for us to understand what do I need to do to become better at it. So here are certain examples. Now, I've taken examples of these well-known personalities because everybody knows them, and we all agree that they have presence. Okay, Elon Musk or Mahendra Singh Dhoni or uh, Steve Jobs. Maybe the last one is somebody that you might not know very well. His name is Arunachala Muruganathan. I'll talk about him in a little while. Now, a couple of myths about executive presence is that it is presentation skills, right? Are they presentation skills or it's about dressing and grooming? So let's put that frame onto these four people and see if that is exactly the reason why they have got executive presence. Now, Mahendra Singh Dhoni, or I mean, sorry, Elon Musk, he might be a great genius in his field, but when it comes to presentation skills, I've seen some of his videos. Well, I'm not sure that he would get an award for something like that. He's a great communicator, but yeah, he can communicate things, but presentation skills, I'm not sure. Same with Mahendra Singh Dhoni. He's a great captain. He can play on the field, but making presentations, I'm not sure. Whereas Steve Jobs, yes, he used to spend a lot of time preparing his presentations, and his presentations were really impactful. Uh, okay, let's put the other filter, which is dressing and grooming. So, dressing and grooming, okay, these guys are fine, okay, well dressed, but at the same time, none of them will get an award, GQ award for dressing and grooming. Now, in fact, when it comes to the presentation or the communication is concerned, I forgot to mention about Arunachala Muruganathan. This gentleman is the sanitary pad man of India. And if you haven't seen his TED talk, you must watch it. And it is brilliant. Why? Because he is not very well educated, and he has probably learned to make presentations. So his presentations may be okay, but his communication is excellent, right? In fact, he makes funny statements in his presentation, and he says that I'm a less educated person standing in front of extra educated people. And so, in case I'm making any grammatical mistakes, please use the right click of your brain to correct those mistakes. So, the thing is that he has had a huge impact. He has got executive presence in spades, but it is not because of either his dressing or grooming or his presentation skills. So if this is this is not what gives you executive presence, then what does it do? Right? What is common among these people that they have got executive presence? Well, so what is common among these people is that they have a unique value proposition. They are very uniquely, individually different. They have a unique quality, and they communicate that value proposition without any ambiguity to the world. Elon Musk is a genius. Mahendra Singh Dhoni is Mr. Cool Cucumber, right? He's a great leader and he keeps us calm. That is his hallmark, that's his signature. And Steve Jobs, he's a marketing genius, great communicator. And at the same time, Arunachalam Muruganathan, he is purpose driven. So each one of them, they have a very different way to communicate their value proposition to the world. The only thing common among them is that they are unique, right? And the second part about them is that they are able to connect with their audiences. Their audiences, they have got millions of followers on Twitter. The way they do things, or they have done things, they have been able to attract a lot of people to their work and to them as their personalities. And here lies the secret for you and me to understand exactly what is it about executive presence, and what exactly executive presence is, right? So executive presence is that you have to be you have to be authentic, you have to be uniquely yourself, and be confident enough to communicate your uniqueness to the world in your own authentic way. And the second is that you must be able to communicate with your audiences in a way that you connect with them. Right? So it is authenticity and connection. When you are authentic, your tribe finds you. Those people who connect with your values, they will be drawn to you. And you don't need to go any further. I mean, you watch TikTok videos or with YouTube shorts, or any one of those influencers, when they speak and they have something of value, those people who value what they are talking about, they go behind them like drones. Okay, they connect with them. So, and that is because they are being very uniquely authentic to themselves here, right? So this is something that is one of the key insights from this session, is that executive presence is about you being authentic and connecting with your audiences at the same time. Have the confidence to stand up for your values, at the same time be able to connect with your audiences in a deep, meaningful manner. Okay, now this is what I wanted to share, that when we started talking about it, that it's not about your technical expertise. The technical expertise takes you to a certain level, but beyond that, it doesn't help you. So it's not about your expertise, but it is definitely about your credibility. What have you done, and what is it that you bring to the table? You definitely need credibility. Second thing, it may not be about presentation skills, but it is definitely about communication, especially about executive communication. Executives, they communicate or consume information in a different manner, and you must be able to customize your communication for them in such a manner that they can easily consume and digest what you have to suggest, right? We are going to talk about that. Now, the third one is that it may not be about dressing and grooming, but it is definitely about confidence. It's definitely about the body language. And that confidence comes from knowing who you are, being authentic, and knowing your job, your expertise, your credibility. And confidence is the only thing that people can actually see. Your credibility and your thought leadership is something which is in your head, but when you stand in front of people, that's something that people see. The first thing is the confidence, the posture, that the way that you present yourself across to them. And that's where your presence is seen by the world by which they evaluate you. Okay. Now, having said that, one more thing, each one of us has got different path to getting to our executive presence. There is no cookie cutter solution. So let me give you an example of some of the people that I have coached. And here is one person who's Pankaj. Let me give an example. He he is a great leader. He did for 15 years. He has led projects and teams. He's loved by his team. He has always delivered his projects on time, on budget, and he was being considered for an enhancement for a strategic role. And when he went to have a meeting about that with his boss, he was surprised to be told that although he's doing great work, but there are some doubts about his leadership, and people are not convinced that he might be a good leader in the boardroom because he seems to not have much visibility in the organization, or that he seems to come across as a pushover, somebody who can be easily pushed over. So he was quite disappointed. But then he took that feedback and he started to work on it. Now, before we go and to define exactly what happened later on, let's have a look at another example. This is Radhika. Now, she is very confident. She is very vocal, and she is quite assertive in the way that she does things. She always stands up for her team, fights for them, and fights for resources for the team. And when it was her turn to be considered for that next promotion, at that time, she got some feedback that the board thinks that she is a little too aggressive, that she would probably bulldoze people over, and she might not be the right candidate for that position. Now, the reason I'm sharing you these two contrasting scenarios is that both of them got the same feedback that they need to work on their executive presence. But their paths were very, very different. One person was given the feedback that they become a little bit more assertive, they must create more visibility, whereas the second person was told that they must be able to connect with their audiences and be not so aggressive or assertive in their approach. So the point here is that you need to find out exactly where you are currently, how are you being perceived before you can start to work on your executive presence. Right? So even if you know that you need to work on executive presence, uh, even if you know that you need to work on executive presence, what we need to identify and find out is whether the path is the right one for us or not. What is the right path for us? Let's just put it that way. Okay. All right. So let's have a look at if this is the thing. I hope you've got a picture of what executive presence is at a higher level. Why is it important? That also we have talked about. Let's have a look at if I have to develop that presence, what would be the best way for me to do it? What is the one way that I can continue to do that? So there is there is a triangle of executive presence framework, and which I call the credibility, connection, and confidence. If you remember the last slide that I showed you, this was about credibility, communication, and confidence. So you need to be able to bring these three things together. Executive presence, if you need to develop, it is about what you are thinking and what you are speaking and how you are coming across to people. So strategic communication or executive communication is not so much about talking and speaking as much as it is about thinking. It is about what you're thinking before you speak. How do you structure your communication, right? So it's about a mindset. Communication may be a skill set, but credibility is about a mindset. Okay. And how do you come across? That is perceptions. How do people see you? Do you have visibility? Do they see you as a plumber or an architect. This is an analogy I like to give when I'm talking about people who are trying to build their executive presence, and they say that uh, I am, connecting with my stakeholders, but I still don't get those strategic opportunities. Now, what happens is that if you are being seen as a technical expert, then they probably are looking at you uh, as a plumber, somebody who can fix things. So when they need things to be fixed, they come to you, they talk to you. But they are not going to think about you when they have to craft their vision, or they have to think about the large strategically impactful projects which are going to make an impact to the organization. Why? Because they don't see you as an architect. They don't see you as an architect. They see you more as a plumber. So one of the things that we need to do, besides building our skill sets in thinking, speaking, and building confidence, is to be able to change the perceptions of people. And that can be done through personal branding. That can be done through the way that you are being perceived. How do you come across to people? Okay, so from this point, let's start to look at each one of these three areas one by one in detail. Okay, any questions you may have, you can just put them into the chat box and I'll be happy to answer them. Or if not, then whenever that those questions they pop up, you're welcome to put them into the chat box and we can address them. Okay, so moving on, let's have a look at um, the one which is on how to build these skill sets. Before that, I can share one quick case study here, that this is the same thing, the same framework that we applied to one of the leaders, and we'll call him Ganesh. And he used to stay very quiet in the meetings, and he was given the feedback that his presentations and updates are very detailed and too much of information in them. So he's sharing a lot of information instead of insights, and that he used to get ignored, and that he did not have much weight during the strategic meetings. And once we worked with him, we identified exactly what are the critical areas that he needs to work on, what are the places that he needs to focus on, the critical areas. He started to put those frameworks in practice. He started to open up and ask very pointed, insightful questions on the proposals uh, with confidence. And he was able to make his communication more concise, more crisp. Because of that, what happened was that he started to increase his influence, and more people would reach out to him for his inputs when it came to his domain was concerned. Even before they would make any long-term decisions or critical decisions, they would want his inputs on what are his thoughts. And that was a big transformation. It took about 8 to 10 months for him to get there, but that was a huge transformation that I can share. So let's have a look at the three different pieces of executive presence, and those are, sorry, I thought it would come on its own. Will it? Because I have uploaded this presentation on StreamYard, sometimes it tends to act a bit funny. Okay, all right. Sure, not a problem. So as I said, there are three pieces. Let me just improvise here at this moment. So the first part is credibility, right? Now, what do we mean by credibility? Credibility in the sense, do you have strategic vision? As a leader, are you looking at the larger picture? Do you see your role in a from a strategic point of view? Can you take multiple perspectives? Can you connect what your technical expertise that you bring in from your function, how does that translate into impact, bottom line impact to the business of your organization? And do you make smart decisions by taking multiple perspectives into consideration and not think only from your uh, functional area, right? So when you do this, you may have expertise in your own domain, but it's highly unlikely that you might have in-depth knowledge of the other departments, right? But when it comes to looking at the larger picture, you need to know how does your work fit into the other organizations or other departments. And that is why it is more important for you to see why is it that we are doing, what is the impact that we are looking for, rather than how does this work. So functional leaders, they tend to focus, their focus mostly is on how does this work, how can it be more efficient, whereas a strategic leader needs to look at why is it important for us to look at it, and what is the impact it is going to have on the bottom line of the organization if we were to pursue it. So this is the piece that we need to look at. One example that I can share with you here is um, that of um, which one is that? Okay, yeah, let me just share this example. That this gentleman, he is traveling by air, and by coincidence, by chance, Ratan Tata is also sitting next to him. And because he's sitting with such a well-known personality, he thought that he might want to say something to 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 come across as a wealthy person. So he just told him, said, I'm actually thinking of buying BMW in the next 2 to 3 months' time. So Ratan Tata said, yes, even I'm thinking of doing that. He said, oh, by when are you planning to do it? So he said, it'll take me at least about 5 to 6 years' time. So the person says, why is it going to take you such a long time? He says, no, because uh, BMW is a big brand and they're not willing to sell at this moment. So the point here is that the business person was talking about buying a car, whereas Ratan Tata was talking about buying the whole company here. And that is probably in a lighter way you can talk about it, but this happens more often than not, right? If I can give you another example, let's have a look at a rookie college graduate who just joins your team. Usually they're very enthusiastic and they have got lots of ideas that are coming, and they are not shy of sharing those ideas. Then they will come and very enthusiastically they will say, let's do it this way, let's do it that way. But from your experience and from where you are sitting, you see that they have not thought through their whatever idea that they are sharing, right? And in your mind, you are going, yeah, let's give him some time and he will start to see the bigger picture and he will be okay, right? Am I right? Have you been able to, I mean, have you had uh, occasions where you might have thought about it like this? Sure. Now, can you imagine if you were to be in the presence of a senior executive and you were to be talking more about your functional expertise rather than about the strategic uh, initiatives and issues which are critical to the organization? What do you think the senior leader is thinking about you in that moment? Is it possible that they are also talking about, thinking about you in the same vein as you are thinking about somebody from a college who just passed out? The difference is that the person or the college graduate has still got an opportunity to make mistakes and move his way up, and he still has time to improve upon the way that he comes across. But in your case, if you are not careful, it can be career suicide, right? So the point here we are trying to make is, when it comes to your credibility, you need to look at these 2 3 things: see the strategic picture, connect it with what your expertise is, and be able to take well balanced holistic decisions based on multiple perspectives. Okay, right? So that's about the credibility part of it. Now, many of people, they tell me that, you might not be there, you might not be the candidate for boardroom at this moment. So for those people, I like to share this uh, clipping from Professor Ramcharan, who in his book, The Leadership Pipeline, very clearly said that as you go through each leadership passage, you need to be preparing for the next level and cannot wait until the day you receive your C suite or a managing director title to start thinking like one. So this is about an attitude. This is about a mindset. You don't need to get to that level or designation before you can start to take in the bigger picture. And in today's world where organizations are flat, we are working in teams, we are in a product world, not a project world, you need to be able to see the entire picture. You cannot be siloed in only your functional expertise. Okay. So this is like a wake up call for a lot of us that yes, we need to start doing that. So what are some of the things that you can actually do to start working on your credibility? One of the things that you need to look at is that sometimes those mails coming from the CEO's office, you need to look at them more carefully and try to find out what is the strategic direction your organization is taking. What are the strategic priorities for your organization, for your team, for your function, which are there, and how do they connect to the larger picture? Right. So becoming aware of this, and even at the stage of how is the industry evolving, how does your organization fit into the larger industry picture, all these things are an exercise in widening your perspective. The wider the perspective, the more data points that you have got, the better your strategic leadership will be. All right. So let's move to the next one, and which is on communication. Now, executive communication, as I said, it is very different from that or the regular communication. Executives, they consume information very, very differently. Unfortunately, what has happened is that at school and college, we were told that the more you write, the more information that you share, the better your communication is. It's not that. Executives, they want you to come to the point right away and give them as little information as possible. Right? So your communication must have two, three things. It should be clear and concise. It should be engaging. It should not be in bullet points. When the executives are talking to you, they are not looking for copybook solutions or copybook answers from you. They are looking for your perspective. They are looking for insights that you have gleaned by virtue of being in your role for so many years. They want to hear your story. So make it engaging and make it and tell it in such a way which is jargon free, which any layperson can also understand. And stories are one of the best ways for you to do that. Stories also not only give the logical reasoning behind your decisions or proposals, they also connect emotionally. So storytelling is a very key art for building your executive presence, right? And customizing your communication. Not everybody understands the same thing. How would you describe your job to a person in your industry at your level will be very different compared to how you would describe your job to uh, somebody who is just out of school or college, or maybe your nephew or niece who's about 10 years old. How are you going to explain it? You will have to customize your communication to them. Right now, I was going through one of the sales training, and in that they said that they was talking about that when you are trying to persuade people or influence people, do not try to give them the details of your product. Do not try to give them the details of the features of the product. You need to do three things. You need to ask questions. You need to tell stories, and you need to tell analogies. People love case studies and stories, and people understand things much more easily with analogies rather than by detailed explanations. Now, let me give you an example. Uh, about 20, 25 years back, when I went to buy a car. I was buying a Santro. And as I entered the showroom and I was talking to this consultant executive, and he said, "Oh, Santro, yes, sir. You have come just at the right time because now we have got a new model and it has got a ERLX engine." Now, it didn't mean anything to me, right? So I asked him, I said, "So what does it do?" So he had to convert that technical speak to be in my benefit. And he said, "Oh, you will have better riding comfort and you will have better mileage." Now, that is something that I can understand. So whenever that I have used this analogy to share with people the difference between a technical speak and a story, people can actually relate with that and they get it, right? So I hope you get it too, that how does analogies or how do comparisons and stories work when it comes to communication. And even at board level, these things, they make a lot of difference. Okay, so communication wise, you need to make sure that you have crisp communication, you are telling stories, and that you customize your communication to make it more persuasive. Okay, now here's an example which I call the executive headline formula. What is an executive headline formula? Executive headline formula is the way that executives like to consume their information. So if we were to put it in a technical speak, it is more like we're implementing an AI strategy. That's a lot of techno babble, right? So because you are from the IT industry, and even if you are not from your organization, people will probably understand a little bit. But somebody who doesn't understand IT, this is like all Greek and Latin to them. Okay. So if you were to try and explain that to a business person, look at the way that you can make it more strategic. That our new AI strategy is aiming to reduce cost by 30% within the next 8 months while increasing system reliability, directly supporting our operating excellence initiatives. Can you see that this person who is communicating, they are leading with the business impact? What is the business impact of this change or this strategy is? Once he has communicated that impact, then he's talking about the timelines, means timelines and what exactly it is going to do when it comes to the system stability, reliability is concerned. And it also connects directly with the strategy or the organization priorities that we are looking for operational excellence initiatives, right? So this will make much more sense to a business person rather than your technobabble, which you are most of the time, many a times leaders, they don't structure their communication in a business speak like this. So this is something which is important for you to understand. Okay, all right. So this is an example of an executive headline formula. This is one thing that you can take away from this session as a framework that you can start to use in your communication. Anytime that you have to communicate something to a business executive, remember impact, time frame, key metrics, and strategic connection. What are these four things? What is the impact on the business? What are the timelines we are looking at? Key metric and strategic connection. Okay, next is, and the last one is the presence, the deliberate impression management. Now we say that don't judge a book by its cover. Don't judge a book by its cover. But the fact is that we do it all the time. Perception is the reality. What people see and what people believe, that is their reality. And you need to make that, you need to manage those perceptions. So your physical presence, the way that you come across, how confident do you come across? What is your visibility? Do you have a personal brand that people recognize? Or the non-verbal communication that you send across to people in your presence? All those things, they are data points for your people's subconscious mind, and they make an opinion and impression about you based on those points. Now, let me give an example once again. How long does it take for you to complete your engineering degree? It takes you probably 4 years, right? How long does it take for an interviewer to decide whether you are going to get that job or not? People say 4 minutes, but sometimes I say it's less than 5 seconds. They used to say that it takes 1 minute, but somebody said that it's 4 seconds, and the rest 56 seconds, they are just justifying their decision, right? Is it fair? Do you think people can know everything that they have to know about you in the 4 seconds or 1 minute or 4 minutes or whatever it is? No, it is not. But they have a certain framework or a mental model in their head that if this person is doing this, then he is not good, and if he's doing this, then he is right. And it is their perception, this is their framework, it's there. But the fact that they are in the decision making position, the only thing that you have in your hand is to be able to manage how you are being perceived by the interviewer or by the other person, right? So very important for you to manage perceptions. Manage your energy, in the sense, if you are constantly feeling like a headless chicken, that you are constantly running around and you are between meetings, or you are constantly rushed about things, then people will think about you in a certain way. But if you are totally not interested in things and your energy is on the other extreme, which looks disconnected, not interested, then it communicates something else to people. In between, if you are somebody who's like a joke a minute, or you are constantly bouncing off the walls, none of these energies, they align with how you see or perceive an executive. It might not have any bearing on the quality of your work, but this is what people see, and this is what people will use to judge and evaluate you. And that is the reason it's important for you to manage your energy, right? And authentic executive bearing, how do you come across in your dressing, in the way that you talk, in the way that you walk, in the way that you speak? Now, one example here: when you are speaking in a very fast pace volume, or fast pace or high volume, right? People don't associate that with an executive communication. But if you are talking something like this, when you emphasize every single word that you say, even if you are not saying anything profound, people are paying attention to it. It comes across as if you're talking and saying something very intelligent. Now, I wanted to share this example with you so that you can see that it does not have to be something profound, but it gets perceived as profound. So all these things put together, it's your responsibility to present yourself in the best possible light, because people see the visual first. People make first impressions in the first few seconds. And if they get a positive signal, positive vibe from you in the first few seconds, and they positively connect with you, then you get an opportunity to share with them your thought leadership, your perception, your perspectives, and you have an opportunity to make an impact, right? So very important for you to have a look at your physical presence as a critical area to work on when you are building your executive presence. Okay, so let's zoom out a little bit here. Let's have a look at what all that we have covered so far. So we have looked at why is executive presence important, what are the components of executive presence, that is the credibility, communication, and confidence. And we looked at each one of these areas of what are the moving parts of these areas that you need to work on. Okay, now let's have a look at the next part in this, which is Sorry, I wanted to share this example with you about Steve Jobs. Now, the reason I wanted to share this example is simply because anytime that I would go into presentation skills program and I'll tell people to dress up in a certain way to make presentations, and they would say, but why is it important for me to dress up? Look at Steve Jobs. He comes in a black t-shirt and jeans, and people still listen to him. And what I tell them is that it's because he is Steve Jobs. But before he became Steve Jobs, even he had to comply by the social norms or the social rules of how people perceive them. And there is a movie called The Pirates of Silicon Valley, which is the story of Steve Jobs and Bill Gates, their rise into the IT industry. And there they talk about how Steve Jobs started this whole Apple company in his garage, and the way that his demeanor was like a hippie. And you can see that in the first frame here, that he looked like that. And at one point, when people were buying his product, he felt the need to expand the business, and they needed a funding, they needed loan, and he went to the bank asking for money. And everywhere he went exactly dressed like this, and sometimes he did not even have footwear. And when he would go there and he would be denied, they would literally throw him out of the bank because of the way that he was dressed, because he had no credibility. So at one point, he got so desperate that somebody told him that, now, the way that you are dressed, that's what just puts people off. So what he did was to go and, shave himself clean and put on a nice suit to go and get the money. So in the movie, there's a part where he walks into his garage and people look at him, his team looks at him, and they start to wolf whistle him. But this is what he said. He said, well, if this is what will make them give me the money, so be it. And the point of the story is exactly that before you have built enough credibility that people would listen to you for what you have to say, you still have to manage their perceptions by being, kind of by managing their perception. And if that means to come across in kind of in a suit and a tie to fulfill their need for a specific persona that a businessman looks like, so be it. Right? So this is something that I wanted to share. We'll just skip this part about that. Now, here is your 4 communication frameworks that I'm going to share with you very quickly. This is your quick win. When it comes to executive presence, this is something that you will develop over a period of time. Like I said, you will need to look at each one of these things. But there's a book by Herminia Ibarra, and she says that act like a leader and think like a leader. She doesn't say think like a leader and act like a leader. It's not thinking first and doing later. Whenever that you want to change your mindset, you do it. You affect it, or you make that change by doing things differently. And that's the reason she suggests that we start to practice in our behaviors. We change our behavior, and slowly it will change the mindset as well. So looking from that perspective, I'm here to share with you 4 different frameworks that you can start to use in your workplace to change the way that you communicate or change the way that you come across to people. So these are certain quick wins. You can immediately start to see the difference. And when you start to do it consistently, you are going to change people's perception about how you come across. Okay, so that is the value of these 4 communication frameworks. And if you have been part of Gravitas's, the newsletter community, then you may have seen one of my ebooks with another 4 frameworks, communication frameworks. And if you haven't, you can drop me a message and I will share that with you also. So let's have a look at these 4 frameworks very quickly. The first framework is the 30 seconds opening. Okay, it's very similar to that executive headline framework that I had shared with you, but this is something that you can practice every time that you have to speak to an executive, how do you make your point in a 30-second? Think of an ad, think of a commercial. That commercials are usually 30 seconds long, and they are able to make their point in those 30 seconds. So you have exactly that same 30 seconds. The second one is strategic listening framework, and to having the third one is to have the so what conversation, and question formulation approach is the fourth one we'll have a look at. Okay, so the 30 seconds framework is about formula for a powerful opening. Okay, example and structure, let me just give it to you. Yeah, so I wanted to share them one by one, but I think in StreamYard it's not allowing me. Okay, so if you look at it, if you were to communicate like, hi everyone, I wanted to discuss our cloud migration project. We have been working on this for blah, blah, blah. The team has been putting blah, blah, blah. And we run into some issues with legacy systems integration that's causing delays. I think we need to consider extending our timeline by 3 months and might need additional budget. Now, if you were to get a request like this, it's all focused about us, it's all focused about the problem, and that it is going to increase the budget and it is going to be delayed. All those things that an executive doesn't want to hear, right? So they have got multiple questions, floating in their head about what is the impact it's going to have, what exactly do you mean by increase in budget, and how are we going to organize it. So all these questions, if you think through what your communication is going to be, and if you are able to articulate that in terms of what is the business impact, what is the timeline that we are looking at, and what exactly do you want, if you clearly put those things across to the senior executive, then it will be a much better strategic communication, right? So if you were to rephrase it or re-articulate it, can be something like, our cloud migration directly supports our digital transformation strategy. So setting the context, why is it important for us? Why? Because it supports our digital transformation strategy, which is an organization-wide initiative. And it will reduce our operational cost by 30%. Business impact, the legacy integration challenges are putting our Q4 launch and $2 million project savings at risk. So this is the risk that we have got if we don't take any action, right? This is definitely important for a business executive. So I recommend allocating an additional 2000K for specialized resources to keep us on schedule. Now, this is where you are not coming just with a problem. You are coming with a recommendation that what I want from you, a clear request, what I want from you is to give me the approval for taking this additional funds from here and put it in this one and preserve our expected ROI. That means to say that we can stick to our budget and deliverables. And I need your approval today to begin the procurement. Very, very clear ask. So it is directly connected to the strategic objectives. It is addressing the business impact that is going to have, the benefit if we were to do, risk if we don't, and a very clear ask in terms of what is required to be done. Right? So this is a much better communication or much clearer executive communication compared to the first one. Okay. Great. Now, the second one is strategic listening framework. Now, that is one about communicating that when you are talking, when you are telling. But one of the things that is again very important is that you should be able to listen to things properly, in the sense we should be able to listen and ask questions. Now, the reason I'm sharing this is because many a times when we are sitting in a meeting and somebody is making a presentation and then they would say, any questions? And 90% of the time people, they don't have any questions. And sometimes what happens is, in fact, I was sitting in some meetings where I felt everything was okay, and then somebody were just to pick up one point and they would ask a question, and suddenly I realized, yeah, that's a very relevant point. Why didn't I think about that? So then I asked one of the leaders who consistently had good questions to ask the presenters in the meetings. And I asked him, I said, what exactly do you do? How do you do that? How do you look for what to ask? I don't seem to have any points where I feel the need to ask a question or clarify. So he says it's very simple, but you need to practice it. And that is that you need to look at these five things. In any project or any presentation, there will always be an objective, there will always be a problem, there will be a solution or multiple solutions. So there are alternatives, right? And what are the trade offs? Because there's always an opportunity cost. So, what exactly are you trading off? If you know these five things, then you would probably have a bigger picture of the project in its holistic sense. So, when you are sitting in a meeting, write down these five things. And as the presentation is going through, tick mark if you have answers for clarity on each one of these points. The place where you do not have clarity, if the objective is not clear, you have an opportunity to ask a question. If you do not have clarity on the problem solution or the alternatives or the trade-offs, so there are multiple opportunities for you to ask the questions. Now it does two things for you. Number one, not only does it help you to be present in the meeting and as a responsible stakeholder in the meeting, you are helping the team look at it from multiple perspectives and see that you are not missing out on any points. Number two, you are creating visibility for yourself, that you do not get stuck in the weeds, that you are always focusing on the larger picture, and that you are able to pinpoint where there could be risk. And that's the reason you ask these questions. So both ways, it helps you to not only create visibility for yourself, but at the same time get a clear picture of something which has got uh, something from this outside your functional domain. It helps you to understand the problem or the project in a much more holistic manner. Okay, so that is your strategic listening or questioning framework, right? Ask these, make a note of these things in the meeting and listen for answers to these 5 points. Okay, the next one is, are you having the so what conversation? Now, any conversation that is happening, we use the framework, or I use the framework called what, so what, now what. What happened? So, what does that mean? So, now what do we do? Now, that's a framework that I would use for any conversation where we have to take a decision or take a call on something. Now, this is what happens. Most leaders, functional leaders, when they are making a presentation, they would come and they would address only the what part of it. What is happening? They fail to translate their technical speak into what uh, kind of impact it is going to have on the business, which is the so what conversation. It is exactly what I gave the example of, that when the car dealer was telling me that, oh, we have got an ERLX engine. So my first question to him was, so what? So what does it do? Right? So here is an example of that, right? That we have identified a critical security vulnerability. Okay, right? So what does that mean? So what? So this creates a potential regulatory exposure. Now it makes sense to me. Okay. Now what? What exactly do we need to do? Once again, the first framework comes into picture. I recommend reallocating so and funds project to address this immediately, right? And I can provide options for how to approach this without disrupting the current roadmap. Now, this is very crisp and excellent. Why? Because not only are you raising the red flag, not only are you telling what the risks are, at the same time, you are coming with a possible solution, possible option of mitigating that risk, and also answering a question in your stakeholders' mind on what sort of disruption it will have on our current operations. So that's a great way of putting things. So this is what I call have the so what conversation. Even when people are presenting their slide decks with beautiful graphics or graphs, or numbers or dashboard, sometimes they fail to answer that so what question in those dashboards. Those numbers are there, but what do they mean? In their on their own, they might not mean anything, but when you put them into a context of so what, then it makes sense to a wider audience. So having a so what conversation is a great way for you to improve your strategic or executive communication very quickly and very fast. So this is one framework you can start to use. Now, the assumption here is that you are switched on and you have the numbers. And if you don't, then maybe that's another place for you to start looking at it, is to keep your mind open and look for where to get those numbers for your communication. Okay. Now, here is the part which is about the executive posture. As I mentioned, it's very important for you to manage the perceptions of people. So, one of the quickest things that you can start to do is to start managing people's perception about the way that you come across to them. So, if at all you find that you are not, you know, sometimes you're a bit sloppy or not dressing very well, people expect you to be dressed in a certain way. I'm not saying that, coat and tie and all these things are relevant and important, but look at your senior executive within the organization. How do they dress up usually? I'm sure a t-shirt culture is also there, but if you see these executives, you will get a good sense of what sort of culture is there within your organization, and how does that kind of what does that tell you about how to dress up in your organization. Every organization is different, so making sure that you come across as an executive is very, very important. Okay. Voice modulation approaches are very important. Space occupation strategies, the way that you sit in a room. If you are sitting bent, making yourself small, hunched up shoulders, people don't perceive that as a quality of a leader, right? So, sure, sitting straight up, looking people in the eye as you are talking, uh, and at the same time talking at a slow or a normal, deliberate pace is one way for you to start getting people to pay attention to you. These are certain perception management strategies that you can start to practice immediately when it comes to building your executive presence is concerned, right? So, what do you think? Let me know in the comment box if there's anything that you feel or experienced anything in the past where you realize that making a shift like this changed things for you. I would be very happy to hear from you on this. Okay. So these are the 4 frameworks that can help you to work on that. Now, the last bit I'm going to share with you quickly is about implementation, right? Now, what happens is most of the times it's not about the information. It's not about the knowledge that we have got that. Uh, Let me just take a sip of water. It's not about the knowledge, because I think every one of us, each one of us knows some of these things either consciously or subconsciously. But the fact is that we do not put them into practice. I'm sure there are a lot of people I have spoken to who talk about that. I have got, so many frameworks. I know about these frameworks, and I've got so many frameworks. But then I don't know which framework to use when. So it is about putting into practice, it is about implementation. That is very, very important. This is something that you need to work on. This is what we call the knowing doing gap, right? So unless and until you consciously start to practice them, this is not going to become a part of your routine or a part of your behavior over a period of time. And James Clear, very well known for his book Atomic Habits, and he talks about the same thing. And he says that I believe that consistency is more important than goal setting. Uh, a system of implementing what you want to do consistently is much more important. And he gives the example that an Olympian has a goal and you also have a goal. The only difference between you and the Olympian is that he has got a system, a consistently working on that system, which helps him to get from point A to his goal. So I would say look at the way that you can discipline yourself into implementing some of these things, and consider getting yourself an accountability partner, right? For example, when you go to a gym, right? Why do you think people hire a personal trainer? Personal trainer, you cannot delegate your push-ups to the personal trainer, can you? You can't, right? The fact that you go to the gym because you know he'll be waiting there, you go to him because he can evaluate what exactly is best for you out of all the thousand things that you know you must be doing. That is what the value that accountability partner brings in. So it's not so much about learning and intellectually consuming content, but it is about translating that into practical implementable actions consistently, which is very important. Okay, so one way, as I said, that I wanted to share with you this is that I have an online community that I'm building. We have about 34 members in that community. And this is one place that we recognize that changing behaviors and building presence and executive communication is something really critical for this audience, and that we need to work on it on a regular basis. What I have also found is that just attending a workshop for couple of hours and taking some insights from that one can be just consuming bits and pieces of information. But what you need along with consistency is a strategy, somewhere that you know what is the specific path for you that you need to take that will help you to get where you want to be. And that can be done if you have a supporting community, if you have a place where you have multiple resources available to you, that are available to you when you want them, and that you can consume them at your own pace. At the same time, you also have the opportunity to have your questions answered, right? So the objective of this community is very, very specific. It is meant for IT leaders. It is meant for leaders who are looking to build executive presence and their strategic communication. And so the forums that we are planning at this moment, because it's a growing community, is that we will have regular master classes, monthly master classes. We will invite leaders from the industry who are already succeeding as strategic leaders to hear their perspectives. We will have weekly Q&A question answer sessions, and we will also have opportunities for a one-on-one connect when you have a problem that is specific to you. And all these things are available to you if you were to join this community. So this is what my proposal to you here at this moment is, that I'm offering this at a beta price of 1,999 for a lifetime access. This offer is available to only a certain number of people because we are looking to build that momentum. That here it will be 1,999 for a lifetime access if you were to sign up before 30th of April. And after that, the price is going to go up to 1,999 per month, right? And you can be in this community, and if you feel that this is not for you, we'll be happy to return your money. But this is one option which is available. At the same time, one more thing, next month on the 16th or 17th. I still haven't finalized the dates. We are going to be having a workshop on elevating the executive presence, in which we are going to do a deep dive on each one of these topics that we discussed. So if you were to sign up, you will have an opportunity to be part of that workshop also. Otherwise, it is going to be sold for 799. Sorry, 7,599 or 499. I'm not sure at this stage. Okay, so this is what I wanted to share with you. I hope that you found this session to be useful, and I hope I'm able to do a better job of this from the last time, where we looked at and I had some technology challenges. So yeah, it's a learning experience. I feel that it went off a little better this time. So I would like to hear from you. This recording will be available to you for the next 3 days, and after that, it will be available inside the community, and you can access it from there. So you will find the link in this presentation. You can look at this code. I will be sending out a mail, so there you will find all the details. And yeah, I hope to see you soon, and I will see you again very soon, either in the community or for the next session here. So thank you very much for joining once again, and have a wonderful weekend. Thank you. Bye bye.